wreck avoidances,
Stay low. He's high, stay low.
daring passes,
Oh, you're gonna get it.
silly jumps,
Oh my god, a drive-through.
the thrill of victory,
They're against the wall. Good win, Mark. Stay low.
and the occasional mishap.
My sand crash.
This is the DMLC Racing Channel.
A new beginning with familiar faces. For the first time, Lionheart is going back to its roots. 18 races to determine who is the best and the most exciting form of auto racing on the planet. 200-mile-an-hour Indy cars, inches from disaster or glory. There can only be one inaugural champion, whose name will be etched into the Lionheart history books. Find out next. The Lionheart Speedway Series, presented by DMLC Racing Channel, starts now.
After rookies stole the show in the opening 3 stanzas in the Lionheart Speedway Series, the series veterans bounced back last time out. In our first Triple Crown event of the season, from the virtual Homestead Miami Speedway, it was Adrenaline Motorsports, staples of the Lionheart Racing Series, taking 1 and 2, with Christopher tasting victory for the first time this season. We return to a 1.5-mile track today, but one known for shredding tires, even when not reaching speeds touching 200 miles an hour, as we arrive to Hotlanta for the DMLC Racing Channel 200 at Atlanta. Welcome back to RaceBot TV and continued coverage of the Lionheart Racing Series, powered by HyperX. The Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows that we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperxgaming.com, and don't forget to use the promo code Lionheart15, that's LIONHRT15, for 15% off all orders. My name is Arjuna Kankipati, and alongside, as always, is Justin Prince. TV cameras are provided by Istvan Ballo and TrackCams22.com, with additional car cameras designed by RaceBot's own Tyler Maxson. You can follow along with live timing and scoring, powered by our partners at timing71.org, where you can follow along with the best in the real and virtual worlds of motorsport. Let's dive straight into our sim experience countdown to green. It was an exciting race last time out, Justin. As mentioned, it was Adrenaline Motorsports at the front in the first of our Triple Crowns, but we head to Hotlanta for a run through May with 3 critical ovals for these drivers.
And 3 different types of ovals for these drivers to face. You have Atlanta today, known for its bumps and its ability to shred tires and make it difficult to find grip. You have a track like Phoenix, which has been known for putting on some great racing action in the Lionheart Racing Series, but is also a very tough short track that makes it difficult to pass, especially with the dirty air. And then you have a track like Gateway, which has a mixture of 2 different types of corners, where it's so easy to snap loose coming off of turn 2 if you don't properly make sure you're ready to adapt to the changing conditions in the camber of the corner. 3 different types of racetracks coming up, but Atlanta is going to provide a ton of spicy racing action, as some of these competitors put it for tonight.
And I mean, thinking back to the Lionheart IndyCar Series race at Phoenix, we saw Jason Galvin taking a very emotional victory in the Thumbs Up Cancer Down race there. Let's see if we can replicate that when we head there in 1 week's time. Back-to-back races, and I think it does mean that these races will be very key in these championship standings, presented by the DMLC Racing Channel. It is Christopher that now leads, but Alexis Newsom has been a rookie revelation, to say the very least, Justin. Victories in round 2 and 3 in our championship. She sits in second position, but Adrenaline Motorsports, after a bit of a tough start at the start of the season, and they've got 3 drivers in the top 5.
they definitely bounced back as an organization, but for Christopher, he felt very happy about how he's done with this championship so far this season. But the thing is, when it comes to Alexis Newsom, Newsom has been very consistent when it comes to the speed around these types of racetracks, especially the 1.5 miles so far, compared to the shorter circuits where strategy has gone towards Alexis's direction as well as the pace. It's going to be interesting how things fare out today, though, especially when you include drivers like Matt Taylor for Team Race First Red and his speed, and others who are trying to charge their way up the standings, like Barrett Rolfe, like Ken Hacker, like Dean Mall, who have all shown flashes of speed this season and or have found their way to victory lane at least once in the case of Mall.
Yeah, that was a great victory for Mall in our season opener. Barrett Rolfe has been a revelation in the recent couple of rounds. He works himself up into the top 10. Could have been more as well if you think about how some of his races have gone. Team standings are presented by HyperX and Adrenaline Motorsports after that 1 and 2 elongate the gap. It's almost upwards of 150 points between them and Team Race First Black. Team Race First Red in close pursuit of their compatriots or teammates as you would deem it. But I think these will be interesting to see how they shake up, Justin, because the top 5 organization, they've got the numbers at hand. You see Ascari Autosport, for example, Barrett Rolfe all by his lonesome sits in 7th position.
Yeah, those numbers are definitely very important, especially when you include the race first cars. Talked to Matt Taylor earlier this week. He mentioned having those numbers and that data to rely on is very key when it comes to this type of series. But the Adrenaline Motorsports machines overall, you mentioned it, with the speed so far, with 3 drivers inside the top 5, it's going to be tough to stop them overall as a whole organization in terms of how the team standings are faring out, because these types of racetracks are the ones they circle with these types of facilities.
And I mean, if you think about strategy playing out in their perspective, for someone like Joe Branch, it worked out perfectly last time, taking a 2nd position there. Looking at the rookie standings presented by Butt Kicker, it is Newsom versus Taylor at the front. Van der Sant has been very impressive on occasion, might have hoped for a little bit more. Just a couple of hours ago, he was in action on the iRacing IndyCar Open Championship. You can go back and watch that replay from the Circuit of the Americas live here on RaceBot TV. Van der Sant was very impressive on the road course. Heads into the oval with a bit more of a challenge on his hands. But interestingly enough, Justin, I mean, you take a look at the championship standings before. We've got a lot of rookies at the front of these points.
And there's a lot of these drivers who are trying to show that they can perform at this level, to say the very least, here in Lionheart. It takes a lot of skill to perform up at the front week in, week out. But the big thing that's been important, and this has been something the rookies as well as the veterans have had to deal with, has been some of the attrition, some of the fuel marks, and the importance of track position. And for many of our rookies, they've been strong in qualifying for the most part. They've started up towards the front a majority of these races, and it's put them into solid positions, or if they haven't qualified well, they've been able to charge their way up to the pack to put themselves in position for those valuable points.
And I mean, with 3 back-to-back weekends, I don't want to overemphasize it, but I do think, in thinking about the championship, drivers will have this month of May, important in the NTT IndyCar Series, important in the Lionheart Speedway Series as well. Take a look at the series details presented by Minus 273, the premier name in karting gloves. Their industry-leading gloves are super lightweight and durable, made of a breathable poly spandex. Whether you're a kart or a sim racer, Minus 273 gives you the control to reach victory lane. For more information on Minus 273's full line of gloves and apparel, visit minus273.biz, and don't forget to use the promo code minus273 LHRS15 for 15% off all orders. We are done with our first of the Triple Crown events. We'll head to Indy for the next of them before we have to wait all the way to the conclusion at Auto Club for the final one. Double points on the line in each of those, Justin, and a custom fix setup. We've emphasized it at the start of every one of these broadcasts. No in-car tools. Drivers have to use their 2 hands and their 2 feet to adapt.
And the drivers I spoke to, Arjuna, had some concerns about the potential inside the pack of drivers faring out with the dirty air and the aero wash for today's race, because when it comes to this circuit in particular, there is the potential of a high amount of it. And with the drivers expect to be packed together at the start of these runs, and as well as the potential when you use your feet on the gas on the starts and the restarts today to have tire spin. That's going to make things very difficult for those drivers, especially with them having to utilize just those hands and feet to make sure they keep that car straight without any issues.
You can see victory lane right there. That's where all the drivers want to end up. But in 4 different trips to Hotlanta, we've had 4 different winners as well. Pole position might be relatively important with Clean Air taking that pole sitter to victory twice. We've also finished under cautions twice in history, including the last time we came here with the DW12. But it's also a race, Justin, where we might not necessarily see too many cautions. And so when you think back to what we saw in the first couple of rounds of this championship, will strategy be key?
I think strategy would absolutely be key because some drivers have talked about the potential of saving gas in the heart of the pack if they have that opportunity. But overall, the very most these drivers have seen caution-wise has been about 4 yellow flags in a race. That was just 14 laps under yellow. You can't rely on the caution flags. And in turn, drivers have talked about the importance of getting onto the pit lane as well. It's a very tricky pit lane to get onto. And in turn, it's going to mean a lot of drivers better hope they put in that preparation to make sure they make that commitment cone.
Well, qualifying is just about to get underway. 5 minutes for solo car qualifying. And Justin, I mean, let's take a look at this track very quickly. 1.5 miles in length. It is, I don't know what you describe it as. Is it technically a quad oval now? Because it did undergo a reconfiguration not too long ago.
Well, it is a quad oval because you have those 2 kinks that end up with the straightaways and down the front straightaway. 24 degrees of banking. You're 5 degrees down the straightaways, just above 1.5 miles at 1.54 to be precise here at Atlanta Motor Speedway. But they're very bumpy corners, and they're ones that build up a lot of tire heat and a lot of tire wear. Drivers emphasize today the importance of controlling their tire temperatures as well as tire wear if they want to be the front runners once things start to spread apart.
Well, let's take a look at the first shots of cars on track. Always an exciting time. Seconds are ticking away in qualifying. The lap record here, by the way, 224 miles an hour. That was set by Billy Boat for AJ Foyt Racing back in 1998. This has got a heritage of open-wheel racing, not necessarily in the recent couple of years, but open-wheel racing, always an exciting prospect here. I tell you what, I'm trying to see which of the drivers we should check on in with as the first of the lap times does come on in. There is Joe Branch, second place last time out. Will be crucial for him in the points championship. Down the back straightaway, he works to set lap number 1. Justin, I'm very intrigued. A lot of cars are electing to wait until the dying stages of qualifying here to set their fastest lap times.
I think part of that is because there is a cloud above the racetrack, if you can tell, which means the track temperature has a chance of shuffling downward, Arjun. And the cooler the track temp, the faster you go. It's already starting to drop, in fact, because of this cloud cover right now. So I wouldn't be surprised to see drivers look at that and be patient, while others, they're going to need some redos after that.
The fortunate thing about qualifying here is Christopher will be able to gather that car up and head back out onto track. I tell you what, let's see what happened here. It's coming off of that pit exit. One more look at it through the onboard. You were talking about the difficulty, Justin, that we might see, and, well, it's epitomized right here.
There's a ton of bumps when it comes to the pit exit here along that apron into the access road. And when you get to that commitment cone, there's a bit of a bump that jets you around a little bit, shuffles you a bit. And it looks like in that case, definitely shuffled him about to the point where he definitely lost back traction. For Barrett Rolfe, he said he knows he needs to put in a lot of effort for qualifying. Looks like he's trying to run the top line here to gain some momentum for the second time around.
This is not actually, I think, even... Oh, no, it is. It must be his first lap time. For some reason, my timing screen is just not picking up on that. Provisional pole, though, goes to Ron Hacker in the 21. It's Adrenaline Motorsports 2 and 3. Showen and Branch completing the podium spots in qualifying. What's the lap time for Rolfe? Very slow, but of course, as Justin mentioned, building up the lap time, building up the momentum, paints the white line, cutting the distance down the back straightaway. And in through 3 and 4, one of our hardest chargers in the last couple of rounds. He's been very interesting to watch carve his way up through the field. He will come through the quad oval, for a 25.486. It's not going to be pole because Robert Malechka has just done a 25.427. Barrett Rolfe only does a 13th position lap time there, Justin.
And I think that's partly because you may have noticed in 1 and 2, he started to squiggle a little bit up the track, couldn't fully plant himself down to the bottom. And just that one little slide is enough to cost you a ton of momentum around this circuit. So you need to be able to smoothly make your way around the corner without losing any traction along that white line if you want to be able to qualify well at Atlanta.
Take a look at Chris Stouffer. That's his first lap done, 26.185. This is the money lap. And the driver leading the championship standings with 60 seconds left in qualifying might be feeling a little bit of pressure. New paint scheme on his car, finally gets the teal and silver chrome machine into the Lionheart Speedway Series. And out of turn number 4 for the last time in qualifying, what can Indiana's own do? 25.447. It is 0.02 of a second off pole. And that means Stouffer will line up on the inside of row number 2. Robert Malechka and Matt Wagner here, Justin, on the front row of our grid.
Still a stellar qualifying lap, you have to say, for Stouffer. Chris Fowler also putting in a stellar time at a 25.440. And both of those drivers showed that if you have any sort of bobbles, that's where that half a tenth comes in. Qualifying oh so very close, especially with it being full throttle with the clean air for these drivers today, Arjuna.
And out of, what are we looking at, about 36 starters, only 27 have set qualifying lap times. Lots of penalties and end of lines after contact in the first couple of races. Let's go trackside and take a look at our starting grid here from Atlanta. Here is your butt kicker starting grid with his first pole position in Lionheart Speedway Series competition. Robert Malechka with a 25.427 will take us to the green flag. Matt Taylor on the outside of row 1. Matt Wagner, Chris Fowler, row number 2. Chris Stouffer, championship leader on the inside of row 3. He'll have Ron Hacker in the blue and red on his outside. Craig Forsyth, Tony Schowen on row 8 with Joe Branch, Mike Rigney on the edge of the top 10. Michael Hagstrom for Team Players Hagstrom Racing. Good to see relative newcomers doing well. He was very strong last time out. What can he do rolling off from 11th alongside Chris Lanini for LPM Cancer Down? Tyler Groff in 13th. The Muscle Man back in 14th with Trevor Malone in 15th. Alex Guyon on his outside. Charles Teed in 17th alongside the series organizer George Anzaldo. He'll be looking to make his way up into the top 5. Adam Young, Barrett Rolfe, edge of the top 20. Rolfe once more will be a hard charger to watch out for, but Grahula and Paul Jenkins miss out on the top 20. Matt Houston, Dean Moll, 23rd and 24th, with Emerson Santos and Eric Schaus, row 13 on the grid. Christopher Kresge, the final car to set a qualifying lap time with Nick de Groot, the first of the cars not to set that lap. Luis Gonzalez Nunez, Alexis Newsom, two strong drivers on the edge of the top 30 with lots of work to do. Van der Sant and Tsiong, 31st and 32nd. Jason Galvin, 33rd, alongside his LPM counterpart Mark Cohn, with Ken Hacker and Jim Brooks rounding out our 36-car field. As always, we will have a number of onboard looks to take a look at throughout the entirety of the race, but 4 that we will highlight for you right now. Let's start it off with AJ Musselman, who has the HyperX onboard camera. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers, and HyperX is always ready to game.
Tower Graph will have the DMLC Racing Channel onboard camera. The DMLC Racing Channel, your home for the best sim racing videos online.
George Anzaldo has the Graphics Esports onboard, world-class design from the real world to virtual. Visit graphicsesports.com.
Jeff Jean will have the butt kicker onboard camera. What you see and what you hear is what you feel. For more information, visit thebuttkicker.com.
And of course, the wonderful thing about being on the virtual iRacing.com service is we will get onboard looks of all 36 cars in the field. TV cameras provided to us by Istvan Ballo and TrackCams22.com. Additional car cameras designed by RaceSpot's own Tyler Maxson. About to get underway for 200 miles here in Hotlanta. Commitment, competition, commitment, excitement. This is Lionheart, and it's going to be Robert Malechka out front, representing factory-backed motorsports. They'll have Matt Taylor and Matt Wagner in close pursuit with Chris Fowler, Chris Stouffer, and Ron Hacker rounding out the opening couple of rows here. The pace car down onto the safety of pit road, leaves the field in control of Malechka, and we get underway in the DMLC Racing Channel 200 at Atlanta. Good launch there for the race leaders, but single file we work our way through turn 1, Justin. Doesn't look like too many cars want to go side by side just yet.
Yeah, all of them wanting to paint that white line, in fact, and it's going to be interesting how these drivers fare now with some of the aero wash, especially early on in this race. A few of these drivers already, though, looking to try and use the second line. Chris Stouffer trying to utilize it.
And so the championship leader wasting no time through the quad oval side by side with Chris Fowler in the green and I guess it's blue machine. You got also behind him his teammate trying to migrate up as well. They're Shawan in the white and red. Inside is Ron Hacker. So side by side, outside of the top 5, Malechka, Taylor, Wagner, and Fowler as we complete lap number 2. Fowler getting a little bit loose there, checks up the momentum, and Adrenaline Motorsports, Justin, are really rocketing on that outside line.
Yeah, all of them, I think, are just trying to get that line to work. They got an air driver and Matt Wagner willing to try and utilize it. A lot of the grip is along the bottom here at Atlanta Motor Speedway here in iRacing, but you can utilize the second line to try and pinch drivers down and carry a bit more momentum off the corner, in particular in 3 and 4. That's why you see some drivers trying to go up high. It's just not working yet, though. It seems like Stouffer is dealing with a lot of aero wash at the moment.
Stouffer, I think, was trying to come down in front of Hacker, unable to do so. Allowed Fowler to, I think, take back the position. Wagner looked to the outside of Taylor. These cars are starting to pull a bit of a gap to 12th on back because Tyler Groff, Chris Lanini at the front of that queue find themselves losing time. You'll get a decent look there. You can't really see, Justin, the cars at the tail end of the shot right now.
Yeah, a lot of the drivers outside of the side-by-side have currently sorted themselves out into separate packs, in fact, at the moment. There is a second pack that's already almost a full second behind all of this.
Ooh.
And that's from all the side-by-side going on.
I think Stouffer just touched the wall there, Justin. I heard it for the briefest of moments, but we didn't get the greatest of onboard looks there. Look at this, though. The amount of ducking and diving that these cars are able to do. We thought dirty air would be a factor, Justin, but there's so much downforce that the leader, Robert Malechka, has not been challenged so far in this race.
And that's all coming down to the clean air being so very important here at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Several drivers, as talked about, had mentioned that in the pack, you're going to have to lift a little bit. You're going to have to make sure you can get around and properly rotate in the corner. But when you're in the clean air, it allows you to go essentially full throttle, especially in the early portions of this race. And that's what we're seeing right now fare out for some of these drivers, where if they got that clean air, they can go pushing pedal to the metal, essentially. For the others, they have to be a bit more careful.
Barrett Rolfe up 5 on the day already, one of the hardest chargers. Now working on the teal number 69 of Malone. He'll throw the move to the inside, but he has both Tyler Groff and Chris Lanini feeding him dirty air, and that enables the teal and, I guess, purple-colored wheels there to hold on for now. Look behind the Ascari Autosports driver. You've also got George Anzaldo trying to get to the inside of the Muscle Man. Unable to get that work, but I tell you what, Justin, let's jump on board with one of our onboard cameras here in today's race.
Now you can see Anzaldo, I should rather say, just trying to follow along the white line at this moment and try and go up for a hole. Muscleman is giving him an opportunity there, just can't get to that inside, though, to properly make the move.
Also got the HyperX on board for the Muscle Man, as now he has to contend with dirty air from Trevor Malone in front. Jump back out front, because let's take a look at how these guys are sorting themselves out. Now forming a bit more of a staggered formation, if you will. Matt Taylor attempting, I think, to get the run on Malechka, but we haven't had a swap for the lead so far in this race, Justin, and it's looking like if you're that 91 car, you will control the opening stages of this race.
Yeah, but the question is, how will the tires fare out the longer this race goes, because Taylor is providing a decent amount of pressure to try and force it side by side, trying to utilize the second and third lines and use the banking as a bit of a ramp to take away that clean air. But the reason you see that 91 hugging the bottom again is just that shorter distance around makes it so much more difficult to try and fully make a move unless you get yourself clear by apex.
Schowen trying to look to the inside of Wagner, but now his teammate Stouffer will try and look for a move around the outside. This is the momentum game, Justin. This is about, especially if you're not that leader with the ability to just pin the throttle flat for hopefully the next 120 laps or so. It's also that balance, right, of finding an opportunity. We saw Barrett Rolfe, for example, throwing the car in to try and do a slide job, but Stouffer, for example, much more content to ride around on the outside.
Yeah, I think he's just trying to get himself into a different rhythm of lines and maybe save tires a little bit, because he was one of the drivers who emphasized the most to me, where he feels the best drivers later on in the race are the ones who are going to be able to say, but side by side for the race lead. Taylor has been able to get himself side by side just about for the apex. Needs just a little bit further more momentum to fully get himself side by side for the corner exits.
Yeah, I mean, this is the closest it's been. Fowler is trying to just find an opportunity to get some clean air onto the nose of his car. Doesn't look as though Taylor really can do much other than try and slide to the outside line. He'll pinch as well, entering turn 3, but for now, until we see the tires start to wear off a little bit more, does look like Malechka's in control, but this time at the stripe, it's neck and neck, and I think Taylor actually led at the line.
Yes, he did by 7 thousandths of a second, and now at this point, I think Malechka is starting to realize, okay, I've got to go a little bit higher up. He's playing a bit more defensive here all of a sudden. And now it's become a 3-car breakaway as well, with Chris Fowler now starting to build some distance from Stouffer and Wagner as they've been running side by side.
The Adrenaline Motorsports teammates now lined up 3 in line, trying to get around the gray and blue machine. You can see the championship leading teammates all trying to look for a way past to contend for the race lead. There goes Stouffer. Wagner slots into line. Schowen looks to the inside. Branch will try and follow him, and you know this is where teamwork and coordination might come into play. And look what, Schowen able to get the slide job done. Watch for Branch to do the same.
There it is right there. Branch getting the pull down the straightaway for the draft, and now he's got himself clear of Wagner. Can go up for the slide job of the corner exit if he so wants to, and thought about it at the very least, it looks like Arjun just couldn't get himself fully clear. He didn't have quite the confidence to make sure of that slide without getting it done without potential contact.
And I think for now we'll have to concede and stay in 7th, but it's looking good for Adrenaline Motorsports. All of their drivers working up through the field. Let's jump on board with Barrett Rolfe. Hard charger of the day so far, Justin. He's up 8 positions working on Ron Hacker, who is almost down, losing his 6th position on the day. It's not being good for the blue and red. Qualified very well, but clearly struggling in the dirty air.
Yeah, and Barrett Rolfe felt very confident about his moves and being able to put himself around this racetrack. And you're seeing that confidence to where he's figured out the lines, especially to the middle of the racetrack, to the bottom for the corner exits. And he's utilized it very well to find the clean air pockets so far around this circuit. It's just a matter, though, of getting himself fully up there, because eventually that tire fall off going to really start potentially hurting him a little bit here. We're already just about halfway through the first fuel stint of the race. That's how blistering quick they're going.
Yeah, we haven't really talked about strategy yet, but they are keeping things as clean as I was hoping they'd do. Outside line for Barrett Rolfe, OP. And he'll slot his way up into 11th, edging his way in towards the top 10. Fuel window projected between 38 and 40 laps, Justin, and that does mean, and no matter what we see in today's race, it really will be a 3-stop affair.
Some drivers I spoke to were thinking it can go as far as 42 possibly, depending on how much lifting they have to do in the pack. So it's going to be interesting indeed how drivers break this on down, because it's right now in a spot where the final pit stop, if it goes green, would be a wide open case, anywhere from 94 to 117 lap projected, which could make things essentially very interesting with how things have played out. But up at the front, that clean air still being very much big dividends for the 91 machine in front of Taylor.
Yeah, and I think other than the one lap that Taylor would have led, it's been very comfortable for Malechka. I think that's the operative word to use here, Justin, is comfort, because he's starting to feel the effects of the tires losing grip. We haven't talked about the track conditions. Let's quickly try and pull that up on the screen if we can. There you can see 36 degrees track temperature, which when we say hot lantern, might not necessarily seem like that much, but we mentioned the amount of wear that the surface has seen over its years. I mean, it did get reconfigured. It has been repaved not too long ago, but it is one of the tracks that if you ask any NASCAR driver, they will say don't repave it. It's got so much character.
It definitely brings a lot of character, and there's a reason why drivers love this track so much in the rear world, especially with the bumps and the fact that there's a lack of grip. You're slipping and sliding. Some have described it almost like driving as a dirt track, I've heard in some cases. And for some of the drivers for tonight, they described it where the track loses grip progressively. So, in turn, it's led to some clean racing so far, especially up towards the front and how things have fared out. By the way, in terms of Barrett Rolfe, he's turned into the quickest car on the racetrack, continues to back up some of his corners. He is now looking to move up 10 positions on the race.
That's Hagstrom, who will drop out of the top 10. That Ascari Autosport machine is not looking like the most rapid car in qualifying, but whatever he does in the race seems to work out nicely. And Barrett Rolfe, 10 positions gained. Can he get an additional 9, work his way up into the race lead? Looks to the inside of Craig Forsyth. He's going to get the move done as well. Look how comfortable he is, Justin, running all the way down on the white line. Confidence is key when it comes to a track like this. They're racing so close to one another. And Barrett Rolfe seems to know that whatever he does, the car will respond.
And you can definitely tell he's very much dialed in. He's utilizing the gears very efficiently. He's utilized the corners and how he's utilizing his feet very properly. And in turn, it keeps the tire balance and tire temperatures in check when you try and back up those corners instead of, say, planning at full throttle while you're in the midst of dirty air. Now it's going to be the true test, though, for him, because he's going to have to try and get himself up to the next pack of cars, and he's catching up to the next pack of cars actually very quickly.
And now he'll have the full helping of draft with the minimal effects of the dirty air, at least compared to, for example, Matt Wagner in front. Adrenaline Motorsports have scampered on past the number 3 machine. They run 4th, 5th, and 6th. And in the team standings, that is an ominous sign, Justin. 3 back-to-back races. We head to Phoenix, where the Adrenaline Motorsports team, usually pretty strong, not just in terms of pace, but in terms of strategy as well. It's looking good, and we're not even halfway into this championship.
Yeah, they're all looking very confident and all working together, as you talked about, and communication is key, right, when it comes to being able to properly drive around a track such as this, where you want to try and help each other as teammates. You want to also at the same time know that it ends up being where you're all friends, especially in the service, is what I mean by that, is where many of them love to be with a group of drivers that they like to race with and against. And in this case, that's what the case is going to be when it comes to those drivers. They're all well in sync right now. As several of those drivers who didn't qualify, keep in mind, they're trying to still gain a lot of positions, but they are still stuck in the back of the field.
They are well and truly checked up. Mark Cohn, he's up 8 on the day, but that's only putting him in 26th position. Look at the queue of cars forming up. And now, not just in front of him, they're side by side from about 20th on back. And in terms of movers and shakers, let's talk about some of the big names that missed out on qualifying due to end-of-line penalties, Justin. You've got Newsom. Second place in the championship, all the way down in 30th. She needs a strategy miracle to really work her way up the field. Compare her, though, to someone like Alexander Van der Sant. 12 positions gained on the day. He's already matched Barrett Rolfe in terms of being a hard charger, but he's got a lot more upside as he sniffs a top 10 finish.
And he's doing it as well by passing drivers on the outside, it looks like, trying to plan at full throttle just about, in fact, to try and make some of these moves. But this is similar to the struggles we've seen Arjuna at the start of the season for Newsom, the opening race of the season, where as soon as Alexis got stuck in dirty air, Alexis ended up going back in the pack, and it became a bit of a struggle for much of the early parts of that race and midway portion. So it's similar to what we've seen from Newsom to start off the season now, compared to where Newsom had clean air for a majority of the air races so far early on and was able to break away as part of the lead pack.
And Saldo and Van der Sant having a fun scrap. The thing to note as well, Justin, is the cars that didn't qualify I think almost entirely were cars that got penalties for accidental contact, accumulations, whatever it may be. But once you hit that first penalty, things can start to snowball quite drastically. So you can't afford to get in this cycle of, you know, repeated offenses, because we're seeing some incredible 2 and 3 wide action. They're racing so close at speeds, you know, in excess of 200 miles an hour. Mistakes can be oh so easy to slip into, and you don't want to put yourself into a hole early in the season.
Absolutely, and that can really affect your psyche and how you approach these types of races. As the pit window is opened up, it looks like James Grahula going with the undercut, and a couple drivers I spoke to, Arjuna, also expected the undercut to be very tempting for drivers. It's going to hurt drivers a little bit at the back end of the run, but overall, this is one that they're hoping that the gamble works out. The tire fall off has already reached upwards of almost a second for some.
But I mean, it all depends where Grahula is going to feed out. You can see Rolf working on Joe Branch now, sniffing a top 5. 14 positions gained on the day. Let's check where Grahula is. 36 starters. They're all still running and circulating. We have stayed very, very clean so far. Grahula then feeds out in clean air, Justin.
Big time clean air, but that's going to put him down a lap and 3/4 just about. So that's going to be something to keep in mind, is the distance among some of these drivers. It's gone into where the leaders are half a track ahead of that Pat Grahula was a part of. So it's going to really impact where some of these competitors decide to pit it in, it looks like now, in regards to that. By the way, more than a second all of a sudden is now your race lead. Taylor has dropped back.
Yeah, it's really starting to build up. 1 and a bit seconds as well between Fowler and Stouffer for 3rd and 4th. So we're reaching that point. Fuel is almost done. Tires screaming out in agony. And James Grahula is the first to blink. Let's see what the lap time will be then for the number 4 machine, as we're watching Tyler Groff and Trevor Malone side by side. Taylor down on pit road as well this time around. Doesn't look like anyone has followed him in. Waiting for the time from Grahula. It's a 25.756.
And the leader has been running 26 flats for reference sake in the clean air. In the dirty air, though, drivers have been running in the 26 1s and 2s. Hearing over the radio, a lot of pit calls coming in. This is going to be a very busy pit lane, and this is going to make it very tricky if you're very close to some of your competitors to properly get in.
Malechka's down, followed by Fowler, followed by Stouffer, and followed by Forsyth. So this opens the floodgate, working lap 41. In our 200-mile race here live from Atlanta, Barrett Rolfe cycles himself into the race lead, but let's see what Malechka can do. He has led from the start, dominated and painted the white line. Can he make sure he doesn't make a mistake on pit road? Yes, 8.7 seconds total. Chris Fowler slightly quicker, but Malechka will win the race off pit road, Justin. Now we wait to see where he feeds out in relation to the rest of the competitors.
And I believe one car might have spun coming into the pit lane, Arjuna. And Jason Galvin may have gone a tap from one of his tires. I believe Matt Taylor may have hit him. He was able to get to his box, but he was stuck sideways for a good 10 seconds at the pit lane entry.
And we're lucky then that we stay green. Here comes Showen. Ooh, there's a wiggle from Tyler Groff as he locks the brakes coming down onto pit road as well. Let's see if we can pick up what happened to Jason Galvin then, Justin, because I'm glad you spotted that, because you were talking about the difficulty on pit road, and well, Jason Galvin trying to prove you right, it would seem.
Yeah, and he gets a bit of help with a little bit earlier than this where it's at, where he gets hit as he's coming into the pit lane. You can see the fresher tires of Taylor gets him on the right side pod and sends him sideways into the pit lane.
Yellow flag is out, Justin. Not sure why. I believe it's because Eric Schaus and Kren Hacker might have come together, but that in the middle of the pit stop cycle will be crucial. Guyon and Adam Young have been collected in this one as well. Let's jump back to the RaceSpot TV replay machine if we can then, Justin. Ken Hacker, I think, was the instigating car here on the entry to pit road. Locks up into the grass, and that's not the main issue. There's something else that happens.
I think it was Schaus and Guyon who may have gone in contact, and wow.
Up into the catch fencing as well. One more look at this one, Justin. It's the 8 and the 22 that come together, working their way through turn 3 at very, very high speeds. I wonder if it's a call with a car coming down onto pit road. That's the Muscleman. And oh, that's unfortunate there.
Yeah, it looked like something broke on Guignon's car the second that he made contact with Shell, straight up into the wall and nowhere to go for Adam Young. Sent right up into that catch fence indeed, and riding upside down on his side as well. Just tough circumstances there. That one little wiggle was enough to cause all of this.
Well, we jump on board with Adam Young, and let's see it from his vantage point. Nowhere for the Riding Shotgun Motorsports driver to go up into the catch fencing. And, well, he'll be very, very glad that he's racing in the virtual Atlanta Motor Speedway and not out in full metal motorsports. Back to live pictures. Let's see if we can pick up what the effect is on strategy. There's Matt Houston down onto pit road. Joe Branch is exiting as well, Justin. But I think the reality is Joe Branch might be the biggest winner here, because everyone who came down under green flag conditions is going to have to take the wave around.
Not only that, there's drivers right now out of gas, I believe, on the racetrack. Charles Teed is running very slow was running slow at about 45. So some of these drivers are at the point where they might have been right at the very edge of their tank, need to come in that lap. So this is going to really shake up the running order and then some, to say the very least. And now this propels drivers like Barrett Rolfe, Matt Wagner, Matt Houston right into the thick of the battle, and helps drivers like Alexis Newsom, who will be scored up towards the front as a result of this caution flag.
We will get you the winners and losers once we can, waiting for the cars to cycle themselves around as we under caution for the first time in today's action, the DMLC Racing 200 at Atlanta. Relatively clean race in Lionheart history, and I have a feeling, Justin, we will see the same. It was very, very racy between some of the cars, but they managed to make it work, and that's all that matters at the end of the day.
Yeah, it was very racy, to say the very least, with some of the drivers, even with some of the dirty air and air wash they were dealing with. Some of them were able to find those pockets, find their way up to the high line, propel themselves around once the tires started to fall off. For others, be able to back up the corner and properly stick into the bottom of the racetrack. So there were different ways each of these drivers were attacking this racetrack, and in turn, it was utilized into full effect. Overall, by the way, if I'm looking at this right, Arjuna, we're looking at just 8 cars who are on the lead lap of the caution. Everybody else is going to have to take this wave.
And so that's what we're just waiting for. It's Rigney at the front of the line. I do believe 8, a total of 8 cars are not going to be taking the wave around. The unfortunate thing, I also think, is from 36 cars being on the lead lap, we're now going to end up with just 24, I would think. But we will wait for the confirmation. Cars will get waved around as we come across the start-finish line here. Ticket on over to lap 48 out of 133. There we go. Rigney and all the other cars get released. They will form up behind the pace car once more. Not sure if the lights are off yet, Justin, but we might be going back to racing this time around.
Yes, the lights, I believe, indeed are out, and this whole caution flag just shook up the entire complexion of this race, because you have several lap cars who are going to also be restarting up at the front as a result of this. You have Santos pinned the lap down, Anzaldo, Moll, Graf, Nunez, all pinned here, and this is going to be interesting how drivers like Barrett Rolfe now attack and try and get through the traffic to get up to Joe Branch. In other words, it's a good opportunity for Branch to try and pull away.
But watch for Rolfe. He is sniffing his first Lionheart victory. Only a couple of races into his career as well. Now finds himself right behind Joe Branch, a veteran of the Lionheart Racing Series. The safety car about to pull down onto the safety of pit road once more. Live from the virtual Atlanta Motor Speedway, it is round 5 in the Lionheart Speedway Series. Rookies dominated at the start, veterans are bouncing back, and Joe Branch gets us back to the green flag action. The DMLC Racing Channel 200 at Atlanta. Once more, it is single file, but like Justin mentioned, we jump on board with second place Barrett Rolfe. There is 5 cars in between him and the race leader.
And this is going to be the true test for Barrett now. Can he pass by several cars here to make it up to the race leader? while having to deal with the aero wash. He was able to charge his way through the pack where everyone else had the major aero wash. Now he's going to have to do this cleanly and efficiently. Santos, it looks like, is going to give him the space. But meanwhile, Joe Branch, he's being kept busy because several drivers are trying to unlap themselves at the moment. Now they're racing side by side for position behind him.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'd like seeing this in my rearview mirror if I'm the yellow and red. Left side of the screen, you can see the movers and shakers. Justin had said it. This is the way the strategy is cycled out has enabled the likes of Brooks Houston as the yellow flag is out once more. Believe it's because Christopher Kresge and Jason Galvin, ooh, two cars with significant damage. Kresge was missing a portion of the front nose cone as well. Straight then. Back under caution conditions. Has Cristolini been mixed up in this one as well? Yes, he has. I wonder if he's gotten away with minimal, if any, damage to his car. Take a look at this, Justin, and see why we're under caution very, very quickly.
Yeah, you can see they're already scrapping side by side, trying to get a bit back and forth, and wow. The reason I think for that is because Jason Galvin had mentioned, I believe, he had a black flag to serve for under yellow, and he tried to go into the pit lane to serve the penalty. And when he went to come in a pit, just not enough reaction time for the 18, ends up hitting him, and that's enough to cause a big incident in turn 4.
Let's stick on this super slow-mo. You can see cars scampering for the hills as they cut their way through the grass. Malone goes for a bit of a bumpy ride. What happens to Christopher Kresge then? Let's try and pick up exactly what happens to him in this malaise. He's tucked up. Oh, that's what happens to him. Nowhere to go. And he spins helplessly and gets collected as well for good measure there, Justin.
Really tough rank in that sequence there. And when he tries to get going, ends up getting hit as well. Oh, a second time. So you have Lanini, who's trying to wait here, and just as the tire spin starts to come in, gets a bit of damage now to his front wing.
Just looks like that car was not in a healthy state at all. So, second caution of the day in very quick succession. Working lap 52 out of 133. Joe Branch, I think, is now a bit concerned, Justin, after what he saw in his mirrors on that restart. Nunez and Tyler Graf were very racy with one another. Those cars in 25th and 26th, respectively.
And they were also trying to, I believe, race side by side with Joe Branch as well to unlap themselves, too. So Branch doesn't have quite an easy sequence here, where it's similar to what we've seen before with the battle for the lead on fresh tires early on in this race, before the pit stop sequences started off, where the outside can get you a run to be side by side, but if you're on the bottom, you end up propelling forward down around the white line and clearing on by the corner apex. Right now, Joe Branch is in that same propeller effect almost, where the lap cars want to unlap themselves, but they also want to fight for position at the same time. So it ends up being a cat and mouse game and tug of war almost, where it makes it so difficult as a driver in the race lead to hope that things stay calm enough for you to hold on to your race lead and cleanly, because if that goes on too long, Bear Rolf is going to be right there.
The one thing that we know for sure now with Jason Galvin being done for the day is that we will continue not having repeat winners in the DW12 here in Atlanta. It was Galvin winning in Season 4, and he was the only one in this 36-car field with that chance to take a second victory. Malechka, the pole sitter, finds himself down in 13th, fighting his way back. He's behind Tony Showen now, so they are getting racy in the mid-pack. It'll take a lot of work for those cars to work their way back up to the front. Joe Branch, Barrett Rolfe, Matt Wagner, Jim Brooks, and Matt Houston, the top 5. 3 of those cars up 18 or more positions, and for Joe Branch in the lead, he's up 8. So I think it gives you an indication of just how hectic strategy has made this race, Justin. And in terms of the fuel window as well, it doesn't really change too much just yet, but if we get more of these cautions, might we start to see something very similar to what we saw in our first couple of races of this championship?
I think right now drivers like Matt Taylor, Craig Forsyth, Christopher are right now banking on that, because if my math is right, there's a chance they can split the race in half, go to 40 laps to go, make it a one-stopper from here, those drivers. The rest of the field here that's playing for the track position, it's not going to be so easy, Arjuna. They might be in a splash and dash scenario at the end of the race based on the numbers we've been seeing so far. In other words, it's going to be tight once more. We might see fuel mileage come into play now, especially for the driver 16th on back.
Well, started off as a very clean race. 2 cautions in quick succession, but it's the same man at the front. Joe Branch leading us back to green. Got some lap traffic behind him. He will hope to use that to build a bit of a buffer here at the DMLC Racing Channel 200 as we get back underway. Barrett Rolfe, there you can see, diving his way through turn 1. He's got some work to do, but as soon as he gets onto the back of Joe Branch, I would expect him to be very, very racy. Looks like Jeff Seong is down on pit road as well. Not sure if there's a penalty being served, Justin.
That was the car, I believe, that got into Galvin when Galvin came down the pit lane. So, the 18 taking serviceable amount of time already as a result of that. But for Ralph, you can see how much traffic he's having to try and navigate here, trying to pick off these drivers one by one again.
And once more, they are getting racy in the rearview mirror of Joe Branch. But you can see, I mean, 2 wide, 2 deep. That's what's separating him from the main rival. More separation further back, as you can see. There is Matt Wagner on the outside. Oh, sorry, excuse me, on the inside. I believe that must be, if I'm reading correctly, a lapped car. No, that's Matt Houston in the Race First machine. 19 positions gained on the day. It's not been an easy start to the Team Race First red driver, Justin, but this is what he needs, the opportunity to work up in these top-ranked positions.
Not the easiest start to the season as well for Matt Houston, but he's done a great job in keeping his car clean and staying out of the trouble today, and now he's put himself in a decent shot track position-wise. But the problem is, this side-by-side is absolutely hurting them, and Matt Wagner's got side pod damage that's also holding up this entire pack.
Take a look at this mid-pack action. Alexis Newsom looking on the outside line. As who's that white machine all the way? Oh, past the smoke. And that's Tyler Graf. They were getting racy 1 lap down. And I wonder if it is all ended in tears. It was Nunez and Graf battling before we were taking a look at it. So as Tyler Graf resets his way down onto pit road, Justin, 3rd caution flies in very quick succession.
And I think Emerson Santos is the one who gets a bit of contact with. Tries to come down. Was not fully clear as Santos was not down to the white line. And they end up going creeping down to the point where Graf ends up getting spun around and up the racetrack right into the heart of that air pack.
One more look at the onboard, then we will take a look at Graf as you saw the puffs of smoke just in front of the rest of the cars. Unsure who's to blame there. And then, look at the first contact, look at the second, and wait for the third as well, because I think there's one more that's forthcoming. Oh, not sure who that was, Justin, but very quick reaction time. Let's jump back to the live pictures, because pit strategy is playing itself out, and it's split down the middle. Some cars staying out, but the likes of Tony Showen down onto pit road.
And now this gets them into a one-stop window, but loses them the track position to some of the others who pit the last caution flag. And this is the gamble you have to sometimes play, right? Where you're hoping you get a lone run, where it equalizes everybody out to where or they have to try and come in. And now it's in the sequence where those drivers are going to have to battle behind Taylor, Cohn, Stouffer, Vandersan, Lanini, and Krahula, who are all on that undercut strategy from the last caution flag.
And still, Barrett Rolfe is not tucked up behind Joe Branch as we come to restart this race. This time, there's only 2 cars in between him and the race leader, Justin. But it's going to be interesting if Branch can take advantage to watch out in the cars behind and use them to block Rolfe from getting to the lead.
Yeah, this is going to be very crucial for Rolfe to do this properly. If he pushes too hard here, then he puts himself in a similar situation to what we just seen, potentially get himself involved in some of the contact. Might get a bit of help here. It's now just 1 car he's going to have to deal with. That's Enzoldo, who's going to come into the pit lane.
That leaves only Luis Gonzalez Nunez up front. Only 1 car in between Barrett Rolfe and his prey. It will be an exciting race if we can stay green from here, because fuel strategy is well and truly thrown up in the air once more. but at a race which is relatively clean most of the time. We went 44 laps without any sort of caution intervention, Justin. And the last 15 or so laps, it's been pretty frequent to see that pace car back out on track.
There was a little nervousness from one or two of the drivers I spoke to about that, where they were expecting the potential of attrition with everyone grouped together with the dirty air. And for the most part, though, the caution flags have been more so the cause of just simple mistakes or major issues in terms of potential hardware or whatnot. We've seen the first caution flag, bit of contact, breaks the right tie rod, off and away they go. Second caution flag, just driver trying to serve a penalty, he getting hit. And now we've just seen with this one, essentially our first racing deal sort of incident. So it's all played out very interestingly, to say the very least, in terms of that. And Rolf just got some help. Nunez is coming in.
So now no space between Rolf and the person he's applying pressure to. There is still cars in between, though, second and third. Can see there Matt Houston in the race versus red. We'll have one car in between him, Jim Brooks, Eric Schaus, Mike Rigney, Alexis Newsom, Ken Hacker, Paul Jenkins, and Chris Fowler rounding out the top 10. I want to get a prediction from you, Justin, here. What about Barrett Rolf's chances of winning this race? 18 positions gained so far. He's looking like he might be the one to stop.
I'm honestly on board with that potential possibility where he could be tough to stop with the pace he has, because he's improved his finishing position, Arjuna, each race he's competed in so far. He knew that he's had the struggles with qualifying. It's something he's been working on. And for tonight, he's gotten the mix of luck, strategy, and as well the pace to get the job done. The thing is going to be, can he take away the clean air of Joe Branch? That's going to be the telling sign. If he can get the move done while having to deal with aero wash.
For the first time today, Barrett Rolf sniffs clean air at the front of this field. But once more, Joe Branch in control as the safety car down onto pit road. And we get back to the green flag action here in the DMLC Racing Channel 200 at Atlanta. The lapped car is going to be difficult, I think, for Houston to get around because he got a very poor jump. Here comes momentum, though, from Barrett Rolf. Down the back straightaway, pokes his nose to the outside line, Justin. We enter turn 3, neck and neck.
And Rolf giving a decent amount of space here, just trying to build off a run off the corner, it looks like. This is the closest he's been right now, or anyone rather has been outside of once with Taylor to be side by side like that at the stripe all day.
Not able to do it, though. Branch holds on to the inside line. They've scampered away by a full second from third on back. They are getting racy at the edge of the top 10. Matt Taylor inside of Paul Jenkins. Who was that cutting down to the inside? That was Christopher in the all-chrome machine. As he tries to work his way back up, the championship leader, Justin, has got a lot of work to do.
Right now boxed in at this moment, trying to find different lines to try and play around. And keep in mind, Stouffer is among those drivers who topped off a couple cautions ago. He can make it to about 40 laps to go and then some now with these caution flags. You can see just trying to back things up, try and save those tires right now at the moment. It seems to be the main focal point with the big aero wash that he's dealing with.
They're too wide, what, 3 deep in this group of cars? And I mean, I turn my gaze further forward. They are 2 wide, almost 4 deep. Now Chris Fowler has a good view of the action as Houston on his outside holds on to 7th for now. Schaus and Newsom dueling over 5th. Rigney and Brooks in front of them. So a top couple of cars have built up a bit of a buffer, and that's enabling Barrett Rolf and Joe Branch to go side by side continuously here as we work lap 67 in 1:33, Justin, almost halfway through this race.
We've halfway indeed this time by with how things have played out, but Rolf is not giving up easily here. He is not wanting to make this easy at all for Branch. Branch, though, a little bit of a lift that time in the middle of the apex.
Almost 3 wide in the background. Chris Fowler tries to sneak to the inside of Alexis Newsom and Mike Rigney. 3 wide, still entering the corner. Is this going to end in disaster? No, because the yellow flag is already out, and it's because Eric Schaus might actually have been caught up in a bit of a mess there. You don't get a good look, and he toes straight back onto pit road, Justin.
And I think it was because Eric Schultz, we seen one car slide up into the wall in that 3 wide, tried to make it 4 wide with the lane that kind of, well, had a safer barrier in the way.
That is
driver
mistake.
Yes, it is. Just tunnel vision.
Oh.
Just seeing you have an opportunity outside and you just smack the wall trying to get to the outside of somebody. It's a simple mistake all drivers make.
Tunnel vision is the correct word. The problem is when you're running at 300 kilometers an hour, there is no room for that type of an incident. And I think Matt Houston will lose out as well, Justin. And what a good race Houston was having. It comes to an end here on lap number 67.
Now this whole race is going to be very interesting here, so we will look one more time at this. Hard contact. Houston got a bit luck with the near miss from the last caution flag. This time, not going to get the same amount of luck.
So we will jump back to the live pictures and we will step aside for a few moments here live on RaceSpot TV. Don't go anywhere. We are halfway through the DMLC Racing Channel 200 at Atlanta. The final couple of laps here right after these messages.
Wreck avoidances.
Stay low. He's high, stay low.
Daring passes.
Oh, you're going to get it.
Silly jumps.
Oh my god, a drive-through.
The thrill of victory.
They're against the wall. Good win, Mark. Stay low.
And the occasional mishap.
My sim crashed.
This is the DMLC Racing Channel.
Hello and welcome back to RaceSpot TV and continued coverage, the Lionheart Racing Series powered by HyperX. My name is Arjuna Kankipati, alongside is Justin Prince once more on a Monday night as we are live from the virtual Atlanta Motor Speedway. Joe Branch leads the way in a race that has kind of descended into a caution middle part of this race, but as we work our way into the closing stages, we are hoping we will get back to the green flag runs we saw at the start. Lights are off on the pace car, Justin, and we will get back to green flag racing this time around. How's it been going in your mind, and what do you think we'll see in the closing stages of this race?
I think right now it started off very well with the clean racing early on in this race, but cautions breed cautions. It's been what we've been in that spell. If we can break through for a long green flag run after a span of about, say, 5-10 laps, I think we're in a good set sail type situation until the next potential window. Keep in mind, the fuel windows are all in a mixture of different places right now. You have drivers who are going to have to come in at about 15 laps, drivers who can make it to 40 laps to go, drivers who have just topped off who can make it to about 20 or 30 to go. There's all sorts of different strategies now playing out in this field.
But 4 cautions on the day so far, matching the most that we've seen in prior years with the DW12. Back to green flag action in the DMLC Racing Channel 200, and Barrett Rolfe is a man on a mission. Still some lap traffic in between them and Jim Brooks in third, but as we get back to this action, watch for Rolfe to use the draft, use the momentum, and try and build up a run down into turn 3. Joe Branch will be looking in his mirrors. There goes the move to the outside line. In front is Rolfe entering turn 3, Justin. What will it be at the line?
I think Rolfe's momentum died off a little bit coming into the corner, though. It looks like Branch might have the advantage here. Rolfe's not giving this up easily, though. A better launch, though, for Brooks as well as for Chris Fowler. Fowler, keep in mind, has been setting the fastest laps overall in this race, looking to get himself into the conversation here tonight.
That lapped car is not going to be making friends, I think, with Rolfe, but Fowler will take advantage as Jim Brooks in the area 51, DW12 checked up on the inside. Fowler sweeps around turn number 4, still side by side. That's Dean Mole, race victor in our season opener at the Virtual Homestead Miami. Things have taken a turn for him. He'll be hoping for the strategy to cycle himself back into the front as they get... Not sure if that was Newsom getting loose, Justin, if there was some contact there, but they are getting racy for 5th on back.
They're losing themselves a ton of time, but I think there was a bit of contact possibly for Newsom off the left rear tire of Ken Hacker. And that may have just snaked up this pack a little bit more to make it side by side. They're getting very feisty right now. And all of this is doing is hurting them a little bit to where it's going to be hard to pull up to that main pack. They've nearly lost a full second to them.
Meanwhile, side by side, Rolfe and Branch still fighting over the lead with Dean Mole playing a pick, if you will, behind them, not allowing Fowler and Brooks to get on around and squabble with the front 2. Almost 3 wide. Further back is Mark Cohn trying to slip on past Mike Rigney. Lots of cars that we mentioned slightly earlier, Justin, have used the caution cycles to work their way up through the field. You can see left side of your screen. We've got, what, 5 cars in the top 10 that are up double-digit positions as still side by side for the race lead, and Rolfe leads at the line.
Rolfe nearly got himself clear that time, though. He might put himself into a decent position off the corner exit here to try and take away the race lead fully.
Unable to do so. Wonderful aerial look brought to us by ATVO, graphical partners at Race Spot TV. This has been the first time that someone on the outside has tried to control and dominate this race at the front of your field. Still almost clear at the line, but Joe Branch in the yellow and red holds on, Justin, entering turn 1.
And a great battle starting to form up amongst these drivers. Fowler's now boxed into the bottom. Jim Brooks trying to follow him behind. Now the air cars behind are starting to form up a little bit to try and get back to that pack at the moment. What a race it's been for Jim Brooks.
Out front, though, at the line, it is still Rolfe that leads, but inside momentum still on the side of Adrenaline Motorsports' Joe Branch. Question becomes, as the tires burn off more and more, how much is he going to be able to hold on to his speed down on that inside, Justin? Holding on a bit better this time around. Entering turn 3, Branch leads the way as Mole looks to try and make it 3 wide, but that, I don't think, is going to end up well.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to work either to try and make it 3 wide at this point with the race leaders. He is trying to unlap himself. Keep in mind right now, he is the first car 1 lap down. It looks like Barrett Rolfe no longer getting that high side working, just trying to pick some draft back up, the line back up, and try and build enough speed and momentum to get that run back on the high side.
And so the timing screen says working lap 40 on the stint for Chris Fowler, 35 for Joe Branch. But, I mean, we're talking about caution laps at the end of the day, Justin. So it's hard to know how much these guys have been saving. But we talked about maybe some of the cars further back only needing 1 more stop. I'd be starting to feel a bit more comfortable about making it a 1 more stop, even if I'm the race leader, Joe Branch, in clean air.
Yeah, this is all going to be very interesting on how this all plays out. If they can get to about 41-ish laps to go, there's a chance they can try and save, I think. But right now, that's going to be still tough even with the caution laps. Right now, it's going to be very tight, I think, for much of this pack to figure out, okay, can we save enough gas? Can we make it to that mark? Otherwise, they might be trying to bank on a caution flag or bank on the strategy to cycle fully.
Well, last pit stop lap, left side of your screen. will show you that. In fact, it's probably easier if we show you the stint length for the various drivers. It's still side by side. They were about 5 rows deep in this leading queue for a moment, but for now, they keep things under green flag conditions, entering into the pit cycle, because we talked about the window being 40 laps, Justin. Chris Fowler touching lap 43, coming to the line.
Yeah, but he's had to save under about approximately 12 or so caution laps, so that moves that window potentially right to the very cusp of it for a couple of those drivers. That's that exact discussion trying to get towards here is those, if you saved enough under the pace laps, you might be able to get there. It's going to be close, though, as the packs have converged together, and it looks like Hacker is ready to pounce.
31 positions gained. You are not reading that wrong. Ken Hacker from 35th on the grid, now up into second, as there was a mistake on the inside. I'm not sure if we're going to have any cars falling down the order. Joe Branch has had a big issue. He's lost the rear end of the car. Stationary, pointing in the wrong direction. We stay under green flag conditions. By some miracle, Joe Branch will be shouting at the race control, Justin, begging for the caution flag to fly.
Yeah, and because there's no one else around, though, he's not going to get that caution flag. He clipped the apron. That's why he ended up going around. Major wing damage. It's likely going to take him out of contention even with the front wing change here. It's going to cost him a ton of time. He's already lost the lap.
Second place last time around. You can see steering damage as well. I would postulate that maybe day done for Joe Branch in the 28. Look at it here. He did what Fowler had been flirting with on so many occasions. Touches the white line, just gets below and into the wall. Nothing he could do to avoid that one, Justin. We'll take one more look at it from the aerial look. But such a promising position. You could see Barrett Rolfe for a moment was in front, and I think that's where the desperation came on Joe Branch's side, just trying to get the momentum, and things went pear-shaped.
And you almost wonder if you try to give space to Dean Mull as well in that circumstance, because you've seen him start to come down a little bit to the middle line on the outside as Rolfe was able to clear him by, but things are going to get interesting now with how things play out, because Hacker is on a charge, and Hacker is one of the quickest cars on the racetrack now.
This is an interesting fight. You've got a driver who's very, very quick on the day. I'm not trying to take anything away from Ken Hacker, but not been an easy season for him by any means. Barrett Rolfe has been a man on a mission, finds himself with race victory in his clutches. We are coming in towards the pit stop window, Justin. Couple of more laps for the cars at the front of this pack. They will be able to make it on one stop as well.
And this is what they were probably hoping for, is have enough caution flag laps to be able to even themselves out, get themselves right into that window. Now it's the matter of how things cycle around, because we're going to have multiple different layers of this, keep in mind. And we've seen how critical a caution flag in the middle of the window can shake up this field, because essentially you've got the front 8 who are going to have to come in essentially together for the most part. Then you've got the next layer of the onion, so to speak, that's 12th on back. The next layer of the onion, that's 15th on back. And all those layers eventually will peel away back to an even footing, so to speak. It's going to be critical now on what lap some of these drivers can get to as well. By the way, the 91 machine just so happens to be back inside the top 5 and coming in quickly too.
He is, but look at this. Chris Fowler had to make a mega save as a result of getting into the back of, and none other than Joe Branch finds himself on the edge of the top 10. Still might recover a top 5 position, as out of 36 starters, we are down to 28 runners. I think Georgian Zalda recently, not sure what happened to him, because we saw him peeling off onto pit road to avoid getting in the way of the battle between Branch and Rolfe. It's been stationary on pit road for 14 minutes. Mark Cohn side by side with Alexis Newsom, race winner twice this season already. It's also doing very well in the iRacing IndyCar Open Championship, making her mark not just on the leagues, Justin, but on the official competition as well. It is great to see that, you know, the last 12 months have been so difficult for so many people, but the one thing that has enabled some crumbs of joy, I think, for a lot of people is the iRacing.com service.
It definitely allows the an outlet for drivers to be able to race against one another and be able to be competitive against each other. And keep in mind, it allows opportunities to build friendships, be able to battle for one another. And now, the pit stop strategies that come in, Arjuna. Sorry to break up that point, but Barrett Rolfe, Ken Hacker, and Chris Fowler are ready, and one's around.
And that's Chris Fowler. Not the first time we've seen that today, but somehow, crucially, we stay under green once again. Rolfe into his pit box for what will be the most crucial stop in his race career so far in 2021. You can see the field will streak on past. 8.9 seconds stationary for the Ascari Autosport driver, Justin. He will feed himself out into the draft from these cars and will build up the speed and try and reel them in.
Going to be very interesting as well. Just trying to go as hard as he can to the inside. Try to stay away from that bump we were talking about with the outside line. In a stock car, it can be very tricky here on the pit exit. Barrett Rolfe made it look very easy, getting as hard as low as he could to try and maximize the amount of time he can get on the pit exit.
Side by side, it's Forsyth and Van de Sant. Looking for his 26th position on the day on the outside line, getting on past the blue and white. Van de Sant cycles up into the top 5 for now. The man who leads is Dean Moll coming down onto pit road as well, blending himself on the apron there, is the pole sitter, Robert Malechka. Don't think he's in the prime position here, Justin, but if he can extend this stint, minimize the time he spends in pit road, it'll be very close between him and Barrett Rolfe.
Going to be very intriguing, absolutely, because time is fuel. In the lighter the car as well, the faster it potentially can go. And for Barrett Rolfe, this is exactly what I think he was hoping for with how this race plays out. He expected this one to be very spicy, and boy oh boy has it been a spicy one indeed.
I think Jim Brooks might have copped a penalty of some kind. 24 seconds stationary. Drops him out of contention for a top 5 finish. Shame there for the Area 51 machine. Still, though, with 34 laps to go, might cycle back in his favor. Where is Barrett Rolfe in relation to the rest of the field? Still has clean air as Malechka works. Lap 41 on his stint as Matt Taylor finally down onto the lane. This is our first indication then, Justin, of where Barrett Rolfe will be in relation to one of the top 5 cars.
I'm watching this with very much intrigue. It's about 20 seconds, 25 seconds separation. Rolfe is all the way down the back straightaway. Matt Taylor, he's still having to roll his way back in the pit box. Taylor overran his stall.
And that's going to cost him valuable seconds. Finally goes up on the jacks, but around the outside, Barrett Rolfe will sweep, and indeed, lighting up the tires as well does not help the number 8 as he exits pit road. There is Alexander Van de Sant, who is stationary on pit road and now rolls off 8 seconds in the box for the number 97. He's searching, Justin, for one of his best finishes so far this season. I think back to Homestead when Van de Sant was looking almost odds on, if you ask me, for a top 5 finish. Things came unstuck very quickly for him.
Yeah, Van der Sant is a very competitive and quick driver, as we've seen throughout this season, and right now he'll cycle decent bit behind Barrett Rolfe, but he's been consistent. He's been able to keep himself out of trouble for the most part. But when it's been in trouble, it's been, well, a fireworks show so far for Van der Sant so far this season, Arjuna.
So trying to now pick up where everyone is. Krahula exits off pit road. Trying to get up to speed. Van der Sant will slip on past. We are waiting for Malechka, De Groot, Tony Schowen, Chris Lanini, and company to come on down. 30 laps to go here at our 200-mile shootout in the Atlanta Motor Speedway. In terms of track conditions, Atlanta known for its relatively warm conditions, but it is cool on the day, very cloudy, and it has played a factor since the start when it came to qualifying, Justin.
Yeah, it dropped 3 degrees Fahrenheit alone there. Celsius-wise, it's dropped 5 degrees during the race today, and as well, that's about approximately 10 degrees Fahrenheit. It's dropped a ton here. It's allowed the speeds to pick up, the times to pick up, the grip levels to actually pick up here at Atlanta. And that's because of all the clouds. The moisture quality skies have definitely played a factor in how this weather has fared out and how these drivers have been able to handle this racetrack.
Malechka down on pit road from the lead. Let's see where he cycles out in comparison with Barrett Rolfe. Rolls off the jacks now, has that prime pit stall as well. Releases himself from the limiter. There comes Rolfe in through turn 1, already in excess of 210 miles an hour. And he will get back into the net race lead. Malechka, where does he cycle out? In comparison to Alexander Van der Sant, in front of Van der Sant, crucially, Justin, but now has to get his tires up to temperature and pressure.
That's going to be very critical to try and get up there. Needs to get up to speed and then some as several more come in. That's Nick de Groot with a very quiet race today. Tony Shalwood with a very quiet race today as well for the most part for the strategy. But for Barrett Rolfe, he's in a great position now. Just needs this race to continue to cycle out the way it's going. Otherwise, things could go upside down once more.
There are 6 cars praying for a caution right now. Chris Lanini, Ron Hacker, AJ Musselman, Matt Wagner, Matt Houston, and Chris Stouffer. They got the caution lap right now. 7th on back. Would be trapped, Justin. 1 lap down. But with 25 laps to go, pit stop's imminent for those 6 cars.
Yeah, and they're going to need to have it happen fairly quickly. They can't afford to have it happen in about 5 laps even, I don't think. They need it to happen the next couple, and it doesn't help that Barrett Rolfe, despite having some dirty air, is able to pull his way on by to some of these air drivers. Hearing some more pit stops coming up. Ron Hacker expected to come in this time.
So from 2nd position, the 21 machine should be down onto lane. Van der Sant around the outside of Emerson Santos, who I think is just trying to stay out there for as long as he can and get whatever track position that he can. Here comes Hacker down onto the lane. No harm there. Didn't have too much pressure from behind. Money stop for him with 23 laps to go. Let's see if he can cut down on the time in pit road for himself. In terms of battles for other cars, though, Justin, it's the likes of Van der Sant just carving through. Cars yet to come down onto pit road.
Now, Van der Sant's making up a decent amount of time. He's up there in some of the quickest times on the racetrack as a result here. He's actually been able to get himself up to the 91 machines draft as Lee comes into pit, along with Matt Wagner. Back to the point when it comes to Van der Sant. Right now, he's just dialed on in, has the draft to where it's pulling him down the straights, but not enough to where it's hurting him in the corners with the dirty air factor too badly. The tough part's going to be they need to close 2.2 seconds on Barrett Rolfe, Arjuna.
Pit road exceptionally busy now as all but AJ Musselman come down onto the lane for the final time in today's action. Rolfe leads then from Robert Malechka. 2 seconds the gap between net race leader and the number 91. 7/10 of a second further back to Alexander Van der Sant in search of his first Lionheart podium in his career. Luis Gonzalez Nunez coming down onto pit road this time around. He was up there in the top 5. That will cycle Craig Forsyth into net 4th position with James Krahula searching for a top 5, but he's got Mark Cohn on his outside and Alexis Newsom a couple of seconds further back, ready to take advantage, Justin. With 21 laps to go, the muscle man down on pit road.
And that should complete that cycle. They didn't get the caution flag they were looking for, but with 20 to go, it's been an interesting one. And for Barrett Rolfe, the gap is now down to 1.6 seconds and closing. And he's had to deal with some of this traffic. He's got a clean air pocket, though, coming up, and that same amount of traffic is going to have to be filled in. That's Trevor Malone that's behind him.
Gap 1.5 at the line. 20 laps to go. 19, in fact, as it updates on me a couple of seconds later. Barrett Rolfe has comfortable advantage over the rest of his competitors. A check back in the pack with some of the side-by-side action, Justin. It's Krahula and Forsyth squabbling over 4th. They still need to reel in Alexander Van der Sant, who's only 1.7 seconds down the road.
Keep in mind, some of these drivers have upwards of 10 laps fresher tires compared to Barrett Rolfe, and I think that's coming in and factoring in a little bit, Arjuna, on why some of the drivers are running a 10th of a second quicker than the 33 machine. Even with these battles like this, they're starting to do that. But give a shout out to both of these drivers in this fight for 4th position. Krahula, known for his strategies, they've worked out today, where he's had to claw his way back to where he's at, the plus 17. Forsyth, he's had speed all season, especially in qualifying, but today was able to back it up on the racetrack too.
17 to go. Gap down to 1.2 seconds as Malechka uses the fresh tires, trying to get back up to the pointy end of the field. Pole's position, very crucial at the start of this race. Now the question will be, can Rolf, on some slightly more worn tires, hold on as Malechka in the 91 was able to do the opening stages of this race. Here you can see Alexis Newsom, two-time race winner, looking to the inside of Tony Schowen and getting things done very simply on the 31 machine. Don't think there was too much of a fight back there. Tony Schowen, though, will have fresher rubber to get the position back, Justin.
Yeah, that's going to be very critical, as we've talked about, with Atlanta being known for chewing up the tires, and I think that's definitely starting to play a major factor, especially with all the mixed strategies, and this is going to be very critical. Some of the drivers were able to gain a lot of time on the fresh rubber before the others are losing upwards of 2 to 3 tenths a lap now, and are going to have to play defense here. Not the case for this battle, such as Grahul and Forsyth. They're equalized, but for others, you can definitely tell the drivers are dealing with a lot of major tire wear issues and tire pressures and tire heat that's forcing them to lift a lot more in these corners.
On board with Mark Cohn, the gap out front down to 7 tenths of a second. It is coming down hand over fist. 2 tenths last time around as Cohn looks to the inside in the chrome red machine, trying to get on past Forsyth. Has to duck down a gear though, unable to get the move done. On board with Malechka. Dirty air for Barrett Rolf is proving to be a factor, Justin. We've got 12 laps to go at the line.
That's Matt Houston that's now giving him some dirty air in the corners a little bit, and that's going to force him to change up the line, but Malechka is there. Now it's the matter of, can the 91 deal with the dirty air off multiple cars to be able to utilize the fresher tires here? He closed up 4 tenths last time, 2 tenths this time. And
it's Stouffer in the 13 machine will run the high line, not going to interfere with the battle for the race lead. Malechka, part of the factory back squad. They have been very strong. Newsom winning 2 races this season. Malechka wants to add to that total and make this team a contender in the team championships. All over the rear end now of Barrett Rolf, ducking down to the inside through the quad oval. And as we complete 12 laps to go, it is Malechka back to the front, and Malechka in control, Justin. I don't think Barrett Rolf has much to fight this one back.
Still going to try and give it all, though. Trying to utilize the high side and try and get the momentum back for the draft. It's not going to be easy, though. You can see just how much those older tires are sliding up that racetrack.
Malechka across the line. 10 laps to hold on. It's been an up and down day for him. He's had to work his way back up through the field. But what a story it would be in our 5th round here of the Lionheart Speedway Series. We've already had 3 rookie victors. Malechka tries to make it 4. And I mean, if it was Rolf or if it was Malechka, Justin, we had the series veterans and Christopher and Joe Bonch bouncing back last time at Homestead. The rookies are showing up once more.
It's been like that all season, especially since they have shown talent at various different levels across the iRacing platform. But this battle is not over yet. Rolf is still putting on a great effort here. I don't know if he can get it fully clear, though, with the older tires. That's going to be the most difficult finish. Keep in mind, this would be his best result of the season if he can hold out here either way.
I mean, he's always had speed, Justin. That's never been the concern. It's about keeping his nose clean. Sometimes you could claim that he might need to be a little less aggressive. Others, just stumbling upon the scene of an accident. I mean, 2nd place here, even if it's not a victory that I'm sure he would be oh so longing for. The next couple of rounds, we have back-to-back race weekends. Phoenix next time out, a short track that will be very fascinating to see how Rolf adapts to that one. It's looking on the up and up for the number 33 machine. 2 tenths of a second between 1st and 2nd, so we'll check on in with 4th on back. Forsyth has the inside line with Grahula now migrated up to the top, and Mark Cohn once more with nowhere to go.
Yeah, Cohn actually choosing in between both of them, trying to utilize some type of clean air. It's just not working. And when he's getting off these corners, it's forcing him essentially to catch that gear, and that's how much they're having to lift right now with the revs around this racetrack. Grahula, though, might get a chance to clear on by this time.
And he does. In front, here comes Cohn to take advantage as well. Oh, Forsyth will squeeze the 39 machine, holds on for now. But as we exit turn 4, he washes up the track, up into the outside wall, holds on to the car. Unfortunately, no major result there, no major drama. 5 laps to go, Justin. It is heating up at the front of the field.
Valuable points definitely on the line in these drivers racing like that. Now they have to work through some of the traffic. Here comes some of the fresher tires coming in, though. How about Tony Schoen, we haven't talked much about all race since the start. He's now coming in with 8 lap fresher rubber compared to some of these drivers ready to charge and try and get himself up in the top 4.
He was leading the championship after the first couple of rounds. Teammates swap around as Nick de Groot, on a charge of his own up through the field after not qualifying in today's race, gets on past new teammate Alexis Newsom in the big blue, number 63. Out front, though, it is Malechka to cross the line. 3 laps to go, and he's got a 0.6 of a second advantage over Barrett Rolfe as he looks to claim his first Lionheart Speedway Series victory. It's going to be, I'm sure, a pretty exciting result for the driver here, Justin, because not just from a team perspective, with Alexis Newsom, of course, taking those 2 victories before, but rookie in this championship, qualifying on pole, bouncing back after having to deal with the caution malaise that we saw midway through. It's a race that's had it all for the number 91 car. Victory will taste oh so sweet in victory lane.
I 100% agree. It's been that type of a race so far, and has been for Robert. It's been unbelievable, and sometimes it takes a lot of effort to claw your way back like he has, but now just needs to close it out one final lap.
He started on pole, has not led every single lap, though. It has not come easy. Through turn 2 comes Malechka, now 1.1 seconds clear. It's been the rookie showcase here in the Lionheart Speedway Series. It might be expected, you'd think, in the inaugural season of this championship, but veterans last time out took victory. A rookie back into HyperX victory lane. Malechka takes the DMLC Racing Channel 200 at Atlanta. Once more, the Lionheart Speedway Series has it all ups and downs. And after 200 miles of racing, we had 4 different caution periods. It was the pole position winner for the 3rd time in series history, taking the checkered flag. Barrett Rolfe will take home 2nd position. I'm sure he would have hoped for more, but he can't fend off the challenge from the 91. Van de Sant completes the podium. A result that he might have wanted back at Homestead comes to him here today, with Schoen crossing the line in 4th, pipping Krahula and Cohen. De Groot, Newsom, Forsyth, and Taylor rounding out the top 10. Donuts, though, on the card for the number 91, Justin.
And a very impressive race overall, especially to come back in the strategy and ended up playing out just right. We mentioned tire wear could definitely play a factor here. It played a massive factor for several of the battles, especially to determine the race win. He got himself right dialed in for the right strategy to win with the tires.
Hotlanta, always something where you think strategy is going to be key, and well, it played out that way. Barrett Rolfe was looking oh so strong and on the cards for a victory here today, but Malechka through the field uses the fresh rubber to take victory today. He will celebrate in the HyperX victory lane, and I'm sure his teammates Nick de Groot and Alexis Newsom will be sharing in his thrill. Let's go ahead, though, and take a look at our unofficial race results presented by Carnox. Malechka, for the factory-backed outfit, takes victory by 1.3 seconds from Ascari Autosport's Barrett Rolfe, with Alexander Van de Sant rounding out the podium positions. Tony Schoen, championship leader in our first couple of rounds of this championship, might jump his way back to the front with a 4th place finish here today. James Krahula rounding out the top 5, a very close between 4th, 5th, and 6th, with Mark Cohen dropping in the 39 car. Nick de Groot, Alexis Newsom, 3 of the factory-backed cars in the top 10. Great day for them, especially because de Groot and Newsom up 21 and 22 positions, respectively. Craig Forsyth in 9th, with Matt Taylor in 10th. Before we cycle through to the next page of results, shout out to our hard charger here today, Mark Cohen in the 39, 28 positions gained for him, as well as Alexander Van de Sant. Chris Lanini, Ron Hacker, AJ Musselman, Chris Fowler, Matt Wagner, and Jim Brooks, the only other cars to finish on the lead lap. 36 cars. Well, we didn't have that many come the checkered flag. Matt Houston, Chris Stouffer, very strong at points in this race. They finished 17th and 18th respectively, with Trevor Malone and Dean Moll rounding out the top 20. Michael Hagstrom, Luis Gonzalez Nunez, and Emerson Stantos, the only other cars one lap down. Ken Hacker rebounding after some sort of difficulty to finish in 24th, and Joe Branch, after leading for a portion of this race, a mistake drops him to 25th. Charles Teed kicks off the first of our retirees with Mike Rigney, Paul Jenkins, Eric Schaus, and George Anzaldo rounding out the top 30. Tyler Groff, Jeff Young, Jason Galvin, Christopher Kresge, Adam Young, and Alex Guyon rounds out our 36-car field. So while we wait for a very excited Malechka to join us in the HyperX victory lane, so excited he's got to download TeamSpeak to be able to jump into the booth with us, let's work our way in to the HyperX post-race show. The Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows that we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperxgaming.com, and don't forget to use the promo code Lionheart15, that's LIONHRT 15 for 15% off all orders. And I tell you what, Justin, while we wait for Malechka to get prepared to talk to us, let's do it in reverse order. We'll give him plenty of an opportunity to talk to the race winner. Let's start with Alexander Van der Sant. Podium here today, and Justin Prince is standing by.
Alex, first things first, how are you feeling about the run today, especially being able to charge your way up 28 positions from your starting spot?
Yeah, it was probably more like, it was closer to 30, right? Because I had an EOL at the start. But
yes.
Yeah, really proud of that. I just was able to execute on those 2 green flag pit stops, keep up with the draft, save the tires to the end of the run, and just found myself on the podium at the end.
How difficult was it to try and pick the right strategy with how things played out tonight? Because in the closing stages, it was all set up in part with those middle stage caution flags.
Yeah, so I knew because we were getting such short runs in that middle part of the race, we weren't putting much wear through the tires, and I was being mindful of that too. So I just took the fuel when I was at dead last, and just stayed out, got a couple spots from other people blinking, and made it to the end.
An impressive race overall. In regards to this impact for your season, how overall important is this finish? Because it's one of your best finishes of the season.
Yeah, especially coming off of Homestead, where I got a top 10 there, but Milwaukee I was strong. So now I know I can also be strong on the intermediates. So looking forward to more short tracks because those are my favorite. But it's a big confidence boost.
Alexander Van der Sant coming home with the top 3 finish tonight. Congratulations on the run.
Thanks, guys.
So Van der Sant, you heard of the top 10 there at Homestead. It could have been oh so much more, but he kicks off his podium record here today. And again, we said it before, not the first, I'm sure, of many. Let's bring in Barrett Rolfe, second place today. Very close to taking victory, his first in Lionheart competition. Justin Prince is standing by.
And Barrett, you've improved your finishing position each week so far. Tonight was the closest you've gotten so far. Talk us through your race where you tried to hold on, but in the end lost the lead with 11 to go.
Yeah, first of all, I got to send a huge shout out to Manny and Ascari Autosport, and of course the guys backing me at Apex ATX, Apex Hunters United, and Chris Shaw Designs. I wouldn't be in the series without those guys. It was just the way the strategy played out for us tonight. It just didn't have the tires at the end, so yeah, a bit of a gut punch, I guess, but still super stoked to get on the podium tonight.
How difficult was it to try and fight with the tire wear throughout this race? Because this is a track that is very much known for chewing up tires, and in the end, the tires definitely factored in. Yeah,
so we got kind of lucky on that first yellow that came out right as we hit pit lane, which cycled us right up to the front. So it kind of felt like we were on the same strategy with everybody almost the whole race until right there at the very end. So I was actually kind of surprised when we got ran down. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I thought we kind of had it wrapped up there with 20 laps to go, but it ended up being a huge factor, obviously. But I mean, the car felt great, you know, all night.
Indeed. What do you feel you need to do to try and break through for a victory? Because there's a couple different types of racetracks coming up. You have Phoenix and you have Gateway next. What do you feel you need to do to break through at one of those tracks?
I think it's going to take a little bit of luck and just making sure that we continue to execute. I think we've gotten just a little bit unlucky a couple of times. I think, you know, we're showing that we've got it figured out. Maybe except for qualifying, I was pretty disappointed with qualifying myself. Just I had a bobble going into turn 1 on my fast lap, which caused me to scrub a bit more speed than I wanted to. But we were able to make up for it at in the beginning of the race there pretty quick and get up front. So I think mixture of qualifying and just continuing to execute, and we'll get it done.
Thank you very much for your time, Barrett.
Yeah, thanks.
So Barrett,
Rolf, second.
One step closer to that elusive race victory. I don't think it's going to take too long. Don't necessarily think he'll continue the trend of improving his finishes, because that would mean victory next time out. Phoenix will be a very interesting proposition. Let's bring in, I'm sure, a jubilant race winner, Robert Malechka. Robert, first up, you've had to install TeamSpeak, so let's just check. Do you got a copy with us?
Yeah, I got you, boys. How's it going?
Well, I can already hear the excitement in your voice. What was that like, Robert? Pole position on debut, then had to work your way all the way up through the field after cautions played their hand. In the closing stages, it was tires that proved to be the key factor. Did you think you had the race in the control?
No, honestly, no, until whoever was in the lead caught lap traffic, and then I was able to just catch the draft of that lap car, which, you know, got me in the range to close up on the leader and ultimately get the win.
What was the setup like, Robert? Because you got to experience both the joys of clean air and the disappointment, I guess, of dirty air. You seemed to effectively make your way up through the field, and we saw a couple of cars able to do that. Some others struggling in terms of finding momentum. High speed, very close pursuit. What did the Lionheart Speedway Series bring in its first race for you?
Yeah, in my opinion, this setup was very good. You know, if you could, like I was working the bottom there, if you could hook that white line in 3 and 4, it seemed like not many people could, but if you could really hook that white line, the car was just a rocket ship, passing people, and it made it pretty easy in traffic, to be quite honest with you.
Well, you jump in relatively late into the championship. Round 5 is your first race. What do you think it means? Championship pictures? Are you starting to think that far, or one race at a time? We've got back-to-back races, 3 races in May. Should be an exciting start to your Lionheart campaign.
Yeah, you know, right now it's just one race at a time. You know, if I can string 2, 3, 4 wins in a row here, which I'm not going to say I will, but I'm hoping I can. You know, if I can do that, then, you know, we'll start thinking big picture and go for the championship. But right now, it's just wins right now.
Well, congratulations, Robert. You're in the HyperX victory lane for the first time, and hopefully not the last time this season. We'll see you in 1 week's time from Phoenix, hopefully to continue this 100% run of yours.
Yeah, thanks to HyperX for sponsoring the series. Can't do that without them. George for letting me in. Factory Back Motorsports, Cowboy Shit, KobeMore.com, Big Blue Auto Sales, and last but not least, Dakota from Sun Arctic Graphics.
So your race winner in HyperX victory lane. Jubilant, and I'm sure very excited about his future Lionheart career. Justin, before we say goodbye, let's say hello as well to the viewers for the very first time in today's action. Atlanta Motor Speedway, 1.54 miles, like we were talking about on broadcast. Sometimes there's a talk about whether we should repave this track, and really, NASCAR, IndyCar, it doesn't matter what we bring here. Leave it as it is. We saw some amazing racing today.
Absolutely, and we definitely seen how this tire and this track surface, I should rather say, came into play. The strategy in the middle portion of the race was a major factor where all the drivers, yes, could make it, but the differences were what showed the differences on how even 5 laps set of tires could play here at Atlanta Motor Speedway. In turn, it really shook things up, but in the end, the drivers who played the strategy out the best and kept themselves into the best position possible to be able to pounce on said strategies for the ones who were able to come on top of podium finishes or inside the top 10.
Let's take one look at the schedule before we wrap things up, Justin. Phoenix and Gateway, so 2 short tracks. Phoenix, kind of short track depending on who you ask, but It will be a very different type of a race to what we've seen the last 2 times. 1.5-mile intermediate tracks. They've raced, speeds in excess of 200 miles an hour. Now we'll head to a track where, braking might be the norm down in towards turn 1 and 2, and turn 3 and 4. So many alternate lines on offer for the drivers.
It's going to make things very interesting, especially with the battle with the aero wash, because it's been a major factor in both the Retro Series and the IndyCar Series at Phoenix so far. So overall, it's going to be a very important qualifying session, I think, Arjuna, once more. But with the drivers having to utilize their feet and their hands more so throughout the corners, it's going to be where it's a true test to see, can the drivers overcome the traffic? Can they claw and scratch their way on forward in the starting grid and find their way up at the front?
Well, it is time to say goodbye here from the Atlanta Motor Speedway. Before we do so, couple of shout-outs to get to as well. There's a whole team that powers the Lionheart Racing Series and a whole team that powers the team as well. Let's start with the title sponsors of the series, the DMLC Racing Channel. Looking for entertaining sim racing content? Look no further than the DMLC Racing Channel. Follow former Lionheart Retro Series Driver of the Year Mark Cohn's racing escapades as he battles for wins and avoids wrecks with cat-like reflexes, all while providing commentary sure to make you laugh, cry, or both. Follow along by subscribing to the DMLC Racing Channel on YouTube and like his Facebook page at the DMLC Racing Channel. The Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary Ultra Comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows that we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperxgaming.com and don't forget to use the promo code Lionheart15, that's LIONHRT15, for 15% off all orders.
The Sim Experience AccuForce Pro V2 is the premier professional simulation racing steering system. The key to its incredible realism is the groundbreaking direct drive motor control system, providing a driving experience that's second only to the real thing. For more information on the entire Sim Experience ecosystem, visit simexperience.com.
For sim racers, the Butt Kicker Gamer 2 or Simulation Kit has the missing driver-to-car connection, bringing more realism to your sessions. By accurately responding to in-game audio, you can feel the track like never before, providing increased vehicle handling and faster lap times. Are you ready for the most immersive experience in sim racing? Well, for more information, visit thebuttkicker.com and don't forget to use the promo code LION2021 for 20% off all orders.
Minus 273 is the premier name in karting gloves. Your industry-leading gloves are super lightweight and durable, made of breathable polyspandex. Whether you're a kart or sim racer, Minus 273 gives you the control to reach victory lane. For more information on Minus 273's full line of gloves and apparel, visit minus273.biz. Don't forget to also use Minus 273 LHRS15 for 15% off orders.
And it's not just those names up on the screen. I mean, there's a whole team that helps power the Lionheart Racing Series. To learn more about the various sponsors up on screen, head on over to the Lionheart Racing Series website, where you can also learn about the 3 different competitions that are organized by the sanctioning body. We've got, of course, this Speedway Series with the wonderful Dallara DW12. Lionheart IndyCar Series breaks out the IR18 with the Lionheart Retro Series toting around the classic Lotus 79. Lots more to come in Lionheart competition, so if you want to stay involved with the latest, make sure to follow Lionheart Series across Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For all of your esports action, ESTV has you covered on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. But for sim racing content, look no further than RaceSpot TV. Follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Twitch, and Instagram. If you're not already subscribed to our YouTube channel, hit the red button and the bell next to it to get notified every time we go live with a great sim racing series that we get to cover. In HyperX Victory Lane, then, it's a rookie once more. Robert Malechka, on debut, maintains a 100% pole and win record. The DMLC Racing Channel 200 delivered excitement from flag to flag, but we head now to the short tracks for continued back-to-back weeks in the Lionheart Speedway Series. More Lionheart action this coming Wednesday from Kentucky in the IndyCar Series. But from the team at RaceSpot TV, my name is Arjuna Kankipati. I've been joined by the wonderful Justin Prince. We'll see you in 1 week's time live on Monday night for continued Lionheart Speedway Series action. For now, though, it's so long and it's goodbye.